everybody. Oh, nope. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tomorrow. How is everybody doing today? We are super excited because we are about to see Starship Flight 9, and obviously, fingers crossed that everything is going well. I'm going to be joined a little bit later by Jared. He's still doing some last minute preparations right now. But yeah, we have an exciting, hopefully, it's going to be a very exciting show for you guys today. Let me go back to here and transition over. I figured we'd just throw up the live view of NASA spaceflight right now and see the progress. Obviously, we got quite a bit of venting going on. And as soon as the SpaceX official stream starts, we'll go ahead and get pulled that up. But yeah, how is everybody doing today? Peter Elliott, good to see you here. Melanie Tremont, welcome. We haven't seen you here for a while. Good to see you here today. Carpet Burger, welcome very much. And there's our own Ryan Caton. Actually, you know what? John, I don't know if you're in the background, but is there a way that I can actually turn on the volume for just a second? I love Ryan's little reports. If not, it's all good. W- Okay. Well, just to not get confused, I'm just going to go ahead and switch over then to this multi-view right here. But yeah, Ryan has obviously been extremely busy. All the folks at NASA Spaceflight have been extremely busy and doing an amazing job doing all their preparations for this launch and all of their other ones. But yeah, hello to Carpet Burger from England, to Collins. Nice to see you here. And let's go back to this. Middle TN Pyro celebrates 38 months of membership. Awesome. Thank you so much for being a supporter for so long. This is great. So right now, we are hopefully just a little bit away from the official stream starting. Weather is kind of looking so-so right now, but so far has been okay for launch. There was an update not too long ago from SpaceX saying that they were still on right now for 6:30 p.m. Central Time, which is the local time in Texas. So fingers crossed there's no other delays for it and that the weather either improves or stays the way that it is and doesn't get any worse and potentially scrub this launch. I know there's quite a few folks out there who would be very disappointed if this were to get scrubbed to the next day. But as far as we're concerned, if that happens, we can just do this again. But yeah, this is our watch party for this. And if any of you folks would like to join me and Jared and talk with us on camera, you are more than welcome to. I believe that we have a link in the description here to join the guest account. We usually do for that. There we go. John is going to post that link in the chat room. So if any of you would like to hop on camera or even just audio only, you are more than welcome to join us and hang out with us. And I was kind of thinking quite a bit about, we there's all these different launches all the time, and over here at Tomorrow, we're going to have a hard time being able to compete with folks like NASA Spaceflight, who have this great team of people and so many different cameras on the ground, not just at Starbase but also at Cape Canaveral and even sometimes close as they can get to Vandenberg. And we're just not in a position right now to be able to compete with that. Nor would we maybe want to. But I was thinking that it might be a good idea for us to do watch parties. And if we can get a community going that we can watch some of the more important launches or even some of the more what I consider boring launches and have a good time together and enjoy it more as spaceflight fans than trying to be rocket experts that are giving commentary on things. We know enough. We know a little bit, but I'm certainly not not an expert. Have just been following this for a very long time. Oh man. In any case, though, let me know what you guys think about those sort of ideas. If we want to start having more launch parties and be able to continue doing other streams in the future. Just looking around at what everything is going. Looks like everything is okay on the stream part. Joshua Collins, how you doing? Good to see you here. Thanks for joining. And let me just double check. Do I have any updates from Jared? Not yet. He, r- r- Jared is a little bit busy at Columbia. John, do you just want to hop in for a little bit and join me? Yeah, because I keep hearing John in the background, but you guys watching can't hear him, so we'll get you back in here in just a second, and we can chat together. It's always a little bit awkward when I'm sitting here trying to listen to John and then keeping you guys quiet for a bit. But yeah, SpaceX just put out a tweet. They are saying that the Starship team is go for prop load, so propellant loading is happening right now. Tomorrow begins right now. That is amazing. That is amazing. Something else that's really interesting. Actually, I'm just gonna um, do something anyway here. I want this. There we go. And I'm going to go around. Sorry for I'm just clicking around on some buttons and checking out a couple of things. There is a quite a big update that SpaceX was able to share recently, and we talked about this a little bit on our live show just a few days ago on Sunday. And they were kind enough to be able to give quite a few updates about what has been going on the last two flights. Something that was really interesting to me. Let me see if I can zoom this in a little bit more so you guys can see it. When talking about the last flight for Flight 8, Starship's upper stage flew along its expected
Sorry.
trajectory following separation from the Super Heavy booster. Um, Approximately 5.5 minutes into its ascent burn, a flash was observed in the aft section of the vehicle near one of the center Raptor sea level engines, followed by an energetic event that resulted in the loss of the engine. Immediately after, the remaining two center Raptor engines and one of the Raptor vacuum engines shut down, and the vehicle control authority was lost. Telemetry from the vehicle was last received approximately 9.5 minutes into the flight, or a little more than 2 minutes following the first flash observation, at which point all engines had shut down. Um, so yeah, there's still a bit of an investigation that is going on from the way that they continue their updated post here. However, the FAA was satisfied enough that they were able to go ahead and give them the authority to launch for this upcoming launch that, fingers crossed, will be happening today. And there we go. I think we can see John now. Hello, John. Speak for us.
Hello. Testing 1 2. Can you all hear me?
Can y'all hear him? And yeah, there we go. If
Yeah,
any
we're
of
all
you
good. I
would like
can.
to join us
We're all
today, we
good.
have a link that has been posted in the chat room. If you have a webcam and a microphone, you are more than welcome to hang out with us, and we can chat about Starship together. And good, 5x5. So John's
Yeah.
coming in all right. And I'm
Good.
just
Good.
gonna slide you up just a little bit so that
That's
we don't
fine. You.
block you when the chat
Well,
comes in.
yeah. Well, I was moving out the way for when Jared comes in, and let his
Right on,
hair
right on.
take up all as much space as it needs.
We need to give
So,
him
yeah, yeah. Tall
an
view.
extra
Yeah,
cram of.
yeah.
Oh my goodness. So
So
yeah, so freaking excited. Me too, Carpet Burger. So freaking excited and very hopeful that we have good news today. It's the last two flights have, I don't know about you guys, but it's been quite depressing seeing all that effort unfortunately happen. And yet at the same time, what I keep telling myself is I would rather see them test and fail than to not do anything and do studies for 3.5, 5, 6, 7 years like other rocket companies out there, ULA, and not actually accomplish anything. So still much more exciting to have them launch and fail to figure out what they need to tweak and what they need to fix on their system than to just study endlessly. And we certainly don't want to be in a situation like Blue Origin where they've been working on New Glenn for at least 15 years, if not 20 years. They've been working on that for a long time, and it's probably going to be a while longer before we see another launch of New Glenn. They keep saying that they're going to have at least one more launch before the end of the year, but
they keep saying they're going to have a lot of launches by the end of the year with
yeah,
their Kuiper satellites, and they also
but
want to put a moon base on the moon as well with
yeah,
the Blue Moon lander. So they've got a lot of launches to have this year.
absolutely. And yeah, Joshua Collins, better to fail now than later when you have people on board. 100%, 100%. To kind of to briefly chat about Blue Origin, though, they had quite a bit of a problem with the upper stage. At first, it looked like they maybe were having some sort of leak event, but it looks like that their upper stage that was launched on that first flight exploded at some point and caused quite a large debris field. Thankfully, it's in a really high elliptical orbit where its apogee is at a high point, but its perigee is actually a lot closer to the atmosphere in order to give it drag. And the last estimate that I was seeing was that that debris field should mostly re enter and clear up within the next 6 to 9 months, was what I was seeing. And fortunately, the pieces are small enough too that there shouldn't be any risk of anything hitting the ground. It should all just burn up in the atmosphere and evaporate. So they have a lot of work that they need to do on their upper stage and even their first stage. There's been no word, no discussion at all about what happened for their attempted landing burn and
I
you know
reckon they cooked the engines on the way down. They didn't want to refire. It got a
probably
bit too hot for them.
Probably. That's my feeling as well.
They're
Oh,
very big
man.
engines with a very big area, getting a lot of heat. So
Yeah, absolutely. So, they still have quite a bit of work to do, before they will be able to catch up to SpaceX's operations of landing and reusing their boosters repeatedly, and also making sure that their payloads will get to their intended orbits with their upper stage. So, yeah, I want to take them for their word that they will have multiple launches before the end of the year, but we'll just wait and see. Berger's law applies quite a bit often here, so we'll see how things go. Colton, welcome. Good to see you in the chat there. Oh man. Something else that is really interesting and exciting to me is if everything goes well today, and hoping that it certainly will, they'll finally be able to get through a lot of those tests that they have been wanting for the past two flights. And next flight after this, what's exciting to me is that if everything goes well and they're able to accomplish this, then within the next flight, they might be able to do, a bit more of an orbital burn and do, more operations in space instead of this type of suborbital flight that they had doing. And there's a small sliver of a chance out there that if this flight and the next flight go successfully, they could potentially attempt a catch of Starship on the 11th flight. Might still be a ways away from that, but the impression that I'm getting is that they want to push that as much as possible. Not that I get any sort of insider info, but I've actually been quite surprised. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there have been quite a few SpaceX employees who have suddenly become vocal on Twitter or excuse me, x.com. It's no longer called Twitter, but it'll always be Twitter in our hearts, right, guys?
tweet,
But
tweet.
yeah, but I mean, we have some of the leads of the propulsion department and leads for different programs giving updates on stuff that I've never seen them talk like that before, and I'm here for it. I am very much here for it, and hope that they continue to do that for quite some time to come. Let me switch the views up here for a little bit. Right now, let's get a closer shot of what's going on. Everything seems to be going well for the propellant loading so far. And for anyone who's been able to actually go out to Starship, seeing them, all those trucks that are bringing the liquid natural gas and bringing the liquid hydrogen, it is a fleet of trucks, and it's just happening right there on the road. Like, you can walk by, and I'm seeing them. They're connecting these hoses, and you're hearing the hissing sounds that the propellant is transferring, and it's kind of scary. It's like, am I within, like, the safe distance of this? Like, is it really okay for us, random people to just be walking by right now? Oh, man.
I'm pretty
But
sure if they were using stuff that was harmful, they would have like signs out everywhere.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure they would and have some sort of safe distance, but everything has been safe for them so far. So happy to see that. Let's see if there has been any other
In this video,
update.
in the footage at the moment, you can see the lines up to Starship getting colder. They're now white, so they're icing up
Hmm.
and cooling down for ready for propellant load to the ship.
And unless there's any delays on SpaceX's end, their live stream should be starting in about 14 minutes. We will pull that up and let them talk for a little bit. There's a handful of things that they will get to um, that once Jared joins that we might talk over a bit. But I figured we would tune in for the most part of what they have to say. And lately, I don't know if you guys noticed, but the last two there's quite a few little nuggets of information that they dropped casually during the live stream of just like, oh, that's happening. You've already got that far. Okay, let's go. Cool. So I'm hopeful and excited for whatever they might drop during the live stream. And then if everything also goes according to plan, there was supposed to have been an update from Elon Musk. The last schedule was this morning, and
It got delayed till
something got pushed.
tomorrow.
Something got wrong with that.
Yeah, they're pushing it till tomorrow.
They're pushing it for tomorrow now as
Yeah.
well. Oh
Yeah.
man, the last I saw is they had pushed that to 6 o'clock. So 6 o'clock my time. My bad.
Yeah, tomorrow my time. Yeah.
Oh, tomorrow your time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it is 22 minutes to midnight over here. It is very late.
It's gotta love the time changes.
I know.
And is it just me, or did they
So
used to use UTC a lot more? And it feels like within the past couple years they've switched to whatever local time from where they're launching from.
Yeah. So technically, this is launching tomorrow for me. So everyone says it's launching on the 27th. It's not. It's launching on the 28th. Get it
For
right.
you.
Yeah, get it right. It's 28th.
But then again, maybe we should go off of your time because that's what UTC is based off of, right? Greenwich Mean Time.
Time was discovered. Yeah, I'm not gonna say created because time is
right.
Yeah,
because only Oxford University could discover that. That's so weird. Now I'm not even seeing their links for the talk with Elon. Is he wait. Nope. That got deleted. So
they deleted the last one.
Not?
They redid a new one, I believe. I haven't got it up, but I did see it earlier. So I'm just gonna refresh the screen again.
We will see then. They may or may not be doing that update.
So the live stream is still set for at 10 minutes too. So another 11 minutes.
Yeah, that should be good. But we will see, because if they do that speech right after the launch, then I certainly would want to keep tuning in for that if everyone's up for a little bit of a longer stream. I have just a gut feeling, though, that if anything does go wrong with this particular launch, they might push that off for a couple of days. Who knows? I don't think that he wants to give this whatever presentation that he has in mind about their paths going to Mars if they just had another failure. Unless it's an exciting failure at a different time. Hopefully it doesn't have a failure in the same spot and rain down stuff over the Turks and Caicos again. Carpet Burger, my armpits are venting.
Yeah, so get that man some deodorant.
You guys still optimistic about this thing, space people? Yeah, I am optimistic. I'm trying to curb my enthusiasm because I keep running into this problem where I'm overly optimistic and I have full confidence that everything's going to go perfectly well. So I'm just trying to consider all of the options and say that, okay, especially since the last two had their problems, there's still major chances that things could fail on this. But I'm super optimistic. Regardless of what's going on with Elon Musk, the people at SpaceX are amazing and have been working their butts off to make sure that this will take off. The amount of money that has been invested in everything going on at Starbase, the amount of time and money and dedication that's going into just the rocket itself and all of the developments for it. I mean, they're making even bigger high bay there, so...
Yeah, they want this to work. They've taken how many engines off Ship 35 and replaced them because they're probably not quite right. It's like, we'll put this
record time.
On. Yeah, I know. Man. I think there's been more engines on Ship 35 than has been made. Well, maybe not.
Who knows? And they might have even just had to remove it and then fix some stuff on the engine and then put the same one back.
Possibly. Without
having access to all of their serial numbers and everything like that. Who knows? And yeah, link has been deleted, so we will see. We will see. You've lost your faith in the whole Starship project? That's sad to hear. I hope I hope that something will restore your confidence. I really hope that things get going. However, at that same time, though, I keep looking at what everything is going on and wondering if it's truly ever going to be used for anything other than launching Starlinks. You think that the whole thing is based on a flawed premise. I mean, maybe. Something that kind of was funny to me is, there's this philosophy of saying no part is the best part. And I've been seeing a couple of pictures where people edited out the catch tower, and it's like, just land the thing on the OLM. No part's the best part.
Yeah, my one
Bit
is
more complicated than that, but yeah,
everything seems impossible until someone does it.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Everything is looking good, though.
Yep, we've got no delays from what I can see. Everything still is on time. No times have changed. Looks like everything is going very well.
So they'll probably start their broadcast as scheduled, and if there are any last minute delays, either due to the rocket or due to weather, that they'll announce that as they know themselves. Ellie in Space is also doing a stream right now, and her title of it is "Please Don't Explode." I think we all feel that way.
I think SpaceX don't want this one to explode. As I said, they've
Yeah.
Ship 35 has been their baby for the past 3 months. It's not going. It's like, no, you will not explode. You'll get there.
Absolutely. Matt Miller, first of all, hi, good to see you here. Ultimately, it's good now to inject some reality into this niche of the space community, for better or for worse. Absolutely. And is it just me, or are the hardcore Starship people like? Sometimes they seem to be unaware of what's going on in the rest of the industry, or even if they are aware, they just don't care. They're like, oh, that's just mid. That's who cares about that? That's just little stuff. The only thing that matters is Starship, and it's like, there's so much other cool stuff going on. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because the algorithm hasn't been very, very nice to us lately. Things that I personally get really excited about get almost nothing. So maybe that's not a good gauge of how people are feeling about other aspects of the space industry. But we'll see. If we don't have hope, we have nothing. Positive vibes are powerful. Absolutely. We're all sending our positive vibes that everything is going to go well for this. If not for the sake of the SpaceX people, then for the sake of everyone like us and some of our friends over at NASA Spaceflight, Everyday Astronaut, Felix, what about it? Ellie in Space. I mean, we all need a good injection of positive vibes and success. I worry about some people kind of not feeling too good about the way that things go. Yeah, and Lab Padre. My bad. Forgot Lab Padre as well. We all need a good injection of something.
And the launch pad as well.
Yeah, Launchpad.
Yeah.
Which,
And
by the way, I don't know if you guys have followed much with Zach Aubrey, but
yeah, I saw Zach's.
he's been
messages
having
this morning. Yeah.
quite a few things going on right now. Not with himself, but with family members and stuff. So he's still been doing the reposting of different streams and stuff like that, but just hasn't been able to do much commentary. So if you guys feel so inclined, go over to Zach Aubrey's YouTube channel or Twitter or X account and send him some love and positive vibes as well, because he could use it. The Super Heavy booster seems to work great. Stick an Orion or Dream Chaser on top, right? The booster is great. It's the Starship part, the upper stage, that we're having all these problems with. Oh, man. What is the little black rectangle on the right flap?
I'm just going to transition to the other one. I can explain this. It's the on the right flap. You'll see a little rectangle with the heat shield tiles on it, and that's just for re-entry testing. So if it makes it through, so it's just extra test tiles. I don't know if they've got sensors all over them or if they're made of different materials, but they always seem to put some on the upper edge of the wing for some reason. They have done on most test flights So
Yeah, some of the metal ones, some of the regeneratively cooled ones, some of
yeah.
the other different type of ceramic materials that have other materials mixed into it,
So
not just pure ceramic. So
they are just the tiles for testing, just in a really odd place for some reason.
I get the feeling too that there was a little bit, because they had all of those different pins and places where there were missing tiles on purpose on the last two flights, and SpaceX hasn't said anything official.
SpaceX have just said propellant load on Starship upper stage is now underway.
Right on. Hell yeah. Heck yeah. So everything is moving
Everything's
along.
going swimmingly.
Everything is moving right along as it should right now. Good. My suspicion, though, is that some of those spots where they didn't have any tiles at all, facing in the area that they are getting the most amount of heat during reentry, could have potentially caused any sort of problems. Although with both of those two flights, they weren't at that stage yet, so possibly not. But we'll see. So many of those tests about the tiles that they didn't get a
want
chance
to
on the
test
last
those
two
tiles,
flights.
yeah.
Yeah.
They really want to test those tiles. The tile team in the bakery have been like, for the past two flights, we didn't get to test those tiles.
Oh my goodness, Gary. Has anyone realized that if this launches, this will be the 420th reflight of the SpaceX booster? Yes, and we're trying not to tell Elon so that he doesn't go meme crazy on the internet. He still might anyway. Who knows? Oh my goodness. So yeah, it looks like we should be about 2 minutes out for the stream to start, and they'll have their own, wait that they usually have before they actually get going with their hosts. But excited and anxious, one way or another. What's the saying that everybody keeps saying? Excitement guaranteed, one way or another.
Guaranteed, yeah.
That is a great shot that they have. And yeah, you can get a much better view of those test tiles now on that shot.
Yeah, you can
there
see
on
on the big screen, yeah. Thank you very much to NSF for having cameras out there and filming all of this, so we've got access to it.
They're absolutely
we know most of them personally, and they do a fantastic job out there every day of the year for the past 4 or 5 years now. They haven't stopped. It's amazing work that they do over there.
Absolutely. They are absolutely killing it. And it's funny because what they're doing now was always Jamie's vision. This is what Jamie has wanted to do for a long, long time. And
I volunteer as tribute. I'm more than happy to move over there and be around a Starship every day. And get munched on by coyotes.
Now, what I would love, if there's any way possible, is for us to just merge. We need to have like a corporate merger, so to speak, and rename NASA spaceflight to Next Spaceflight, so they can still keep all the NSF branding and everything like that, but take the NASA part out of it, since most of what they care about is Starship.
SpaceX, yeah.
Yeah.
But they
SpaceX
cover everything.
And Starship. They do cover everything, but they don't really talk about everything until like their the This Week in Space. Like that's actually my favorite segment that they do is their edited This Week in Space, which Ryan Caton does an amazing job editing that together. Alicia is a great presenter as well. I really enjoy that. And aside from these streams, they're always doing streams. They have their flame trench. They have the all the different pre-flight streams that they have, and it just gets a little bit too much for me. I'm not watching all of them, but I watch their This Week in Space faithfully, and I've wanted to do something like that for a long time. But every time that we have tried it here on this channel, it just doesn't work out and doesn't get any sort of the usual views that we normally like. So it is what it is, and we just have to roll with the punches. Space people. 420 reflight, I'll blaze one for that. Right on, right on.
Don't think you will be smoking methane and liquid oxygen.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
I know you think it's cool, That's too cool.
All right, let me just go back and check Discord here. How's Jared doing? You okay, buddy?
So
we will see.
Let's have a look.
Once Jared is available, and obviously his work comes first over at the Columbia Center.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you see, I started to form on the methane part of the booster. I'll switch these over, and you'll be able to see it a bit better. So if you look at about the middle, just before it gets to the QD quick disconnect, about halfway up, you can start seeing the ice forming on the tanker manifold.
Nice. Yep. Very nice.
So fueling has definitely started. And also, that's a lot of vapor coming off of the fuel tanks and everything. The cloud generator has started.
Okay, have they begun? Looks like they
who needs
begun.
Vandenberg when you can create your own fog at Starbase?
Right. Here, John, can you refresh your stream? They have started.
Indeed. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Full screen that baby.
I am. There you go. She's up and running, and you should have sound.
All right, I'm gonna switch this over real quick just to do a quick test. Everyone hear the audio okay? Nice. I'm gonna turn this down just a little bit until the actual hosts come on. All right, update from Jared in final setup. So Jared should be able to be joining us shortly. This is gonna be fun. Cool, audio good. Good. And I did not hear you at all, John, whatever you were trying to say. All right.
I love this new intro that they made. Let's just go full speed.
Good afternoon, Space Fam, and welcome to Starbase. I'm Jesse Anderson, a Senior Production Engineering Manager at SpaceX.
And I'm Dan Hewitt with SpaceX Communications. Awesome to have you with us here in Texas, Jesse. Welcome to Starbase. First time, right?
Thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, my first time here, and it is mind-blowing. I went out to the pad this morning, and the scale of the vehicle is just insane.
Dwarfs everything.
And for those of you watching at home, in case you missed the news, Starbase is no longer just a cool name. It is now officially an incorporated city in Texas, and we'll have more on that a little bit later today.
Yeah, right now, though, we are counting down to Starship's 9th flight test, currently targeting the very start of our window at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Good news right up front, not tracking any issues with the vehicle. Weather is gorgeous out there right now. Rain this morning, little bit of wind, nothing now, nothing to worry about. Looking good for a launch.
Starship development is moving quickly here at Starbase. So fast, in fact, that we already are reflying the Super Heavy booster today, which last flew on Flight 7. The primary objectives for today are very similar to our last two attempts, except for the booster, which, in addition to flying for the second time, has an exciting return journey planned for its return back to Earth.
That's right. It's going to be getting some serious rigor, and pretty important, we are not going to be attempting to catch the booster today. We're going to use this launch to kind of further accelerate the development. We're putting Super Heavy kind of through the ringer, some serious rigor. We're going to go through all of that in just a couple of minutes. We're also hoping to get Ship into space, and it's got a couple of objectives like deploying simulated Starlink satellites and then a range of experiments during its reentry. We're really trying to test the limits, the capabilities of that heat shield, the flaps, the structure, everything about it. Primary payload on this flight, once again, as always, is data.
It's definitely a very big day for both stages. There's always a chance we don't reach every objective that we set for ourselves, but success comes from what we learn on days like today. And of course, whatever happens, excitement is guaranteed.
Yeah, that's right. Progress is not measured by single flight tests. It's whatever that timeline overall is, and getting us closer to establishing self-sustaining civilization on Mars, making life multiplanetary. Every time we're learning something from these flights that will get us there, that is progress.
Exactly. Starship is the first orbital launch vehicle engineered to be fully reusable and built for frequent flight and heavy payloads, just like today's commercial airliners.
It's the product of years of rapid development, testing, iteration. We're trying to fly as frequently as possible, fix problems as they appear, and then fly again. It all started here at Starbase back with Starhopper. It was a small single Raptor prototype. Kind of looked like a water tower. We turned it into a water tower eventually. It made its first
going over some stuff we already know. First of all, welcome, Jared. Glad that you were able to make it.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here and glad to see everybody. And what's up, chat? Hope it's all going well.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. It's the flight that I still owe Jamie needing to eat a RS-25 for. So.
Size vehicle. So from there, we moved to full-size test articles.
I can't remember the exact details of the bet, but I think it was somewhere on the order of like if
the Starship that we see today on the pad,
if like Starship flies 10 to an altitude 10 times the height of its diameter, I will eat an RS-25 with mustard or something. So still working on that.
Still working on it. First, we got to get the RS-25, and we're short about what, $47 million, somewhere around there.
You know,
we've started the piggy bank, but we're very short.
What's a couple bucks amongst friends?
I could make an ice cream RS-25. All I need is like an ice cream cone, some blue icing for the hydrogen fire that's coming out the back of it, and we can make like a little chocolate engine to go on the front of it.
Edible paints to give it that metallic sheen.
Yeah, give it that metallic sheen, yeah. A couple of little, the silver balls as well to attach to the side of it for tanks.
Making me hungry. Glad I had just had lunch. So
good, very good. Glad you're doing all right.
Yeah, glad to have everybody here today.
Yeah, absolutely. We got quite a few folks here today. That's great. Zach Faber asks, "Is a scrub exciting?" No, not so much. But
watching a scrub is okay, but having been to several scrubs myself, absolutely not.
If it scrubs, it's probably for a very good reason.
Starship re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Careful, puppy.
Something interesting here from Carpet Burger. I've always thought that it needs to get away from the pad quicker. We could use catapult elastic to get it away from the ground support and launch it out.
ICBMs do that kind of jump thing before their engines ignite, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is that called? Hot launch, or what is it?
I
can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's a hot launch, yeah. Where it's already moving when the engines ignite.
Yeah. We were talking a little earlier before you got on, Jared, about ways that things that we want to do to improve the channel, and I was wishing that we could someday do like a merger with NASA spaceflight or something like that. But Matt Miller has a really interesting comment that I think would be a little bit more in your wheelhouse. It says a good channel to me would merge general relevant science developments like in energy, materials, chemistry, physics, even cosmology and planetary sciences with launches, the agencies and companies. Yeah.
The orbital launch mount.
You know, to me, that sounds a lot like
has
what we were
officially been
originally going to
installed.
do with
That's starting to
TMRO
come
before the
together.
pandemic
Just like Pad
happened,
1,
which
Pad
was
2
this
has a
like
launch mount. That's where you're gonna put Super Heavy
multidisciplinary
on top.
sort of
There's
channel
also the launch
where
tower
TMRO
with
was the
arms a little bit
umbrella
shorter on that one.
of that. You know,
That's
we were going
gonna
to have
be used to
TMRO
stack
cities,
the Starship on top, put
TMRO
you know,
the
talk
science.
about
catch the
urban
booster,
planning
catch the
and things
Starship.
like that, which
We
I
did
think
put
is
the orbital launch mount on there. That's
if you
responsible
think
for
our
routing
show is
all
criminally
the power to
underrated,
the
I think
booster ahead
urban
of flight.
planning is a
Underneath
like
it,
unbelievably
downplane the
fascinating
the water
subject that
deluge
people
system
just
to
don't talk enough
disperse
about.
all of those forces.
And
Piece
we also had, I think we did a couple, I think we did one TMRO Cities episode.
Yeah, just one.
There was several TMRO Science episodes that were done.
That's a lot of
Had some great
and,
interviews on those.
And there was also another channel that I remember Jamie talking about that was top secret. So I'm still going to keep it top secret. Simply because I don't know whether Jamie is okay with talking about it or not, but it was a extremely cool idea. And it actually has been done in the time
Hey,
since
it's a
then.
face I recognize.
But I think it was something else.
Hey,
So,
Jesse and Dan, and welcome
and
everyone
actually, if you
to
give me just a
West
second,
Coast
I'll go
and
grab something.
Hawthorne,
Hey, we know who that
California.
is.
Cool.
As you can
Let's
see
turn
behind
them
me,
up so
the
we
crowd
can
is
hear
gathering
what they're
outside
saying.
of our mission control room here in Hawthorne,
Gephardt,
and the excitement is really
formerly
palpable as we
of
continue to
NSF.
count down towards Starship's 9th flight test. Now, our mission control room here in Hawthorne usually serves as the mission control room for our Falcon and Dragon missions once they launch from Florida and California. Now, with Starship, all countdown and mission control operations actually use the same flight control team from the same location at Starbase, which you can see on your screen now. But as we develop a vehicle like Starship, we want as many experts watching over its various systems as we can. And that's what we use the mission control room here in Hawthorne for during Starship flight tests like today's. The folks in mission control, which you see now on your screen, are the responsible engineers for Starship's various systems. This includes things like booster systems, stage propellant, our ground stations, flight software, the loads, and the vehicle structures as well. And having this support gives the flight teams in Starbase immediate access to our engineers' knowledge, which is really, really important when we're making informed decisions very quickly in a test program like this. This setup has been great for Starship flight tests so far, as we've handled things like propellant temperature differences, as well as day of launch winds that can affect the loads placed on Starship structures during launch, and particularly during the descent of the Super Heavy booster back to Earth. So having all of these responsible engineers ready to support is crucial during Starship testing, where we place hardware in flight conditions quickly to iterate and make the best and most reliable rocket that we can. So it's definitely a full house, a growing full house here in Hawthorne for our 9th flight of Starship today. Every flight brings us a step closer to a future where Starship is flying multiple times a day. And I'm sure you all feel the same way down there in Texas, Dan and Jesse, but I can't wait to see Starship's launch today. How about you?
Yeah, can't wait to see it, Chris. As you can see, props loading on the vehicle is just a little under 2 miles away from us, and we're really excited. Looking back real quick, so back in March, Starship's 8th flight test saw us catch the Super Heavy booster for the 3rd time ever, another big step on that path to full and rapid reusability. Unfortunately, the Starship upper stage did experience what we call a rapid, unscheduled disassembly before it finished its climb to space, which meant we didn't reach all of those additional mission objectives that we had set.
About 5.5 minutes into ship's ascent burn, a hardware failure in one of its sea-level Raptor engines took out that engine, the 2 remaining sea-level engines, and a Raptor vacuum engine. That's 4 of the 6 engines that ship has. This was a different failure than we saw on Flight 7, and the fixes that we put in place did work as expected. So this was a new issue on Flight 8. Now, welcome to iterative engineering.
That's right. Losing hardware is a potential outcome of any test program. That's why we're always prepared with safety measures in place and also ready to have boots on the ground to assist with anything like debris cleanup. We can coordinate with all the necessary parties, organizations, administrations for safety in advance and in an ongoing basis during our test campaigns to plan for as many possible outcomes. Definitely do want to say thank you, though, to the people of the Bahamas, the government of the Bahamas, who worked with us so closely since Flight 8.
We took full responsibility for the cleanup, and in doing so, we had people on the ground in the Bahamas within 12 hours to help with debris recovery. So all that said, we're moving forward in our development cycle with safety at the top of mind, and we fly again today to get this current iteration of ship to space and back.
That's right. Putting hardware in a flight environment as frequently as possible, so you're seeing how things behave all together in the real world. Then you're solving problems as they pop up. That's how SpaceX developed their very first rocket, Falcon 1. Same philosophy was used to develop Falcon 9.
Man,
Today
who
we're
else wanted
looking
to be
to
on
get
that
our
cleanup
first
crew? I would have
re-entry
loved to
with
have
the
been there.
latest iteration of
All the
ship,
tiles.
while intentionally stressing the super heavy vehicle during its return
Might
to
have
get
pocketed
data
a
on
few
its
things.
boundaries. And by stressing, we mean that we'll be pushing the flight envelope of super heavy as we fly at a higher angle of attack during descent towards the Gulf. Angle of attack in this case means that super heavy is pitched up to maximize drag and slow return. Because of this test, we will not be attempting to
Chris
catch
said
and
hello
recover
from
Super Heavy,
Singapore.
which again is flying for its second time today. So for a brief moment, this booster will hold the title as the Super Heavy flight leader.
That's right. All right. Lot still ahead for today. Let's get into it real quick with this overview. As always, everything starts with a liftoff. 33 Raptor engines igniting. Super Heavy pushing itself and Starship into ascent over the Gulf. It's going to continue for about 2.5 minutes before we get to hot staging. Ship will ignite in its engines. Booster will do its boost back burn and begin its flight experiments back for a hard splashdown in the Gulf of America. Meanwhile, ship continues its burn into space.
And ship will remain suborbital. We will be deploying 8 Starlink simulator satellites and then head towards re-entry. We'll relight a Raptor engine as well as test experiments during re-entry, such as missing tiles, metallic tiles, loading the
proof of
vehicle's
payload,
flaps,
so 8
and then
satellites.
ship will attempt a flip maneuver. And if all goes planned, we'll conclude the test with a soft water splashdown in the Indian Ocean. So that's what we have on the menu for Flight 9 today.
Whole lot.
Flight 8's RUD taught us new lessons about Starship hardware, specifically the Raptor engines. And as we touched on earlier, the root cause was traced to a hardware failure in one of Starship's 3 center Raptor
By the way,
engines.
chat, where's everybody
Just
else
since that
watching
flight,
from today?
We've done more than 100 long-duration
Am I
Raptor tests at
kind
our
of temporary
facility
set up
in
here
McGregor.
in Phoenix,
Huge
Arizona?
shout out to that team for really putting in the work to better understand what happened. As a result, the
Los
engines that
Angeles.
are on Starship's upper stage on the pad right behind us have a few changes. One of the key ones we did was additional preload on some of the joints, essentially some additional torquing, a new nitrogen purge system for the engines themselves, and made some improvements to the propellant drain system.
After our first ever Super Heavy refurb campaign, we static fired with all 33
Hamburger
Raptor
from UK.
engines. This was a chance to see all the hardware
James
operating together,
Mackenzie
and
from
for this
Orange
flight, our
Beach.
teams had an opportunity to make adjustments or hardware
would that be
replacements
Alabama?
for this first ever reflight of the Super Heavy booster.
Immediate
And then it was ship's
Medina,
turn.
Ohio?
We took it through several static
Angeles
fires.
as well?
First, we
of
did
your
this
neighbors?
short duration single engine burn to simulate an in-space reignition of
Los Angeles
Raptor
as
using
well.
those header tanks, those smaller tanks.
This
Up in the
part right
nose
here,
cone.
this is what
We
I'm
also
really,
completed
really
a longer
hoping for they'll
duration
finally be able to do.
60-second burn with all 6 engines. So where you're really putting the entire propulsion system that's going to be used for the ship's ascent into space through the paces, making sure everything's working together before we go stack it on the pad.
And in the end, these changes represent the core of our test
nice
program.
dedication,
And
brother.
reflying a booster for the first time is a major
I thought I was
milestone,
doing well.
especially
It's
so
10 past
early in the
midnight
flight
here,
test
so-
program. Now,
Bulgaria
Falcon did it in just
represent.
over 30 flights.
I'm
And
already
Starship's
in
doing it
tomorrow.
today on
Hang on,
just
hang
its
on, hang
ninth
on. What are you
flight.
saying, John? I
It's not
can't hear
wild
you at
just
all.
because of
What?
how much faster that is,
I said I'm
but
already
just
in
how
tomorrow.
bigger Starship is. Falcon 9
Tomorrow began 5 minutes ago for you.
10 minutes ago, yeah.
Tomorrow begins right now.
That is
Good way
so
to start off
exciting. And on top of
your
that,
day
we're also
then.
reflying engine
I did put in
314 for
where I
its
was
third
from. I had
flight,
Tomorrow
which you might recall
UK
is the
division.
engine with a
And
pie
you
on the
misspelled it
nozzle.
too.
I know, I'm so
Division.
bad. I
That
know.
is in there.
Division.
I'm trying.
It is a milestone, most definitely. But we do
I think it's
I'm just
French.
teasing you.
I'm
getting
just
to
teasing
the
you.
I know
buffer,
my
no
spelling's
refurbishment
atrocious.
needed between
It's because he's
flights.
tired
gonna
and is
deny
ready to go to
it.
bed once this is over.
Bring it back.
I would
I
have
just
to bed
gotta
before
tease
this
you, though.
started, in all honesty,
Go
but I
again.
need to stay up.
Really what's
I'm
key,
too
that is
excited.
what full and rapid reusability will look like.
As I said, excitement guaranteed.
Absolutely. Ooh, let's
Coming
tune,
to you
let's
today
tune
from
into
Star
this.
Factory, our new 1,000,000-square-foot manufacturing facility in Starbase, Texas. The Super Heavy booster is the first stage of the Starship launch vehicle stack. It's the largest boost stage ever developed for any rocket ever. Having the largest rocket ever is a very cool engineering feat, but the thing that really makes a difference is the ability to rapidly reuse that rocket to launch many other missions. Reflying Booster 14 is an important first milestone in that we have proven that we can recover a vehicle turn it around and fly it a second time. But it's not a victory lap yet.
From an operational perspective, an ideal state looks like a vehicle where very few things have to happen on it in order to take back off again. So we catch the vehicle, put it back onto the launch mount, put a new ship back on top with its payload, refuel, and take back off. And that same booster will come back to the launch mount, and we do the same thing all over again. Falcon is, reusing at a pretty high rate, and we get to go look at them and say, what did you learn? What is good? What is bad? And as we continue to build the Starship process.
Zero-touch refurbishment really looks like a commercial airliner. The advantage we have on booster relative to when we developed Falcon 9, for instance, is this was really designed from the outset for rapid reusability.
We're using all of the flight test learnings from our version 1 and version 2 vehicles in our orbital flight test campaign to inform the design of our version 3 vehicle.
The next generation vehicle will be the first time that we've really attempted to make rapidly reusable thermal protection on a rocket. In the next iteration, we'll be able to add in new innovative materials and regenerative cooling that will enable rapid zero-touch refurbishment.
Rapid reusability, the ability to fly, turn the vehicle around, and refly again immediately is really the key goal of the Starship program.
It is so cool to see our teams working together as Starship is learning from Falcon with reusability, and now we're seeing Starship do the same thing today. So all eyes on the rocket on the pad, getting ready to launch in just about 17 minutes from now.
That's right. Looking at our levels real quick, we're a little bit more than halfway full on fuel and LOX on the booster, over 80% full on the ship. Still have to fill those header tanks. But everything looking good. We're not tracking any issues on the range. As a reminder, we watch sea states, air, and land around the launch site here and also over in the Indian Ocean where we're going to be doing our reentry. Not tracking any blockers to launch at the moment. Weather is gorgeous, has not been a concern all day for launch. We've been moving through all of our pre-flight checkouts pretty smoothly so far this morning, getting the ship and the booster ready for prop load, making sure guidance, navigation, and control are aligned. Everything's ready to go. You can see with the frost coming off, we're getting pretty full. We started loading all of the propellants on board both ships about 45 minutes or so before launch. They kind of stagger where we start with ship and then move into booster. We're going to continue loading these propellants on board until just about 3 minutes before liftoff. We'll close out on the ship first and then on the booster. But bottom line, everything's looking great. Not tracking any vehicle issues, range issues, weather issues. We're looking really good right now for a launch at the top of our window right at 6:30 p.m. Central.
Yeah, seeing the propellant loading is making this getting more and more exciting. Today is going to be a wild ride for Super Heavy. We're putting the booster through several tests to expand the envelope on its capabilities and get flight data to make its return and catch more reliable. Now, another unique change in today's flight will be the addition of the first ever directional flip of the booster.
That's right. If you've followed previous flights and you kind of wondered to yourself, why does the direction of the booster flip seem random? Surprise, it's because it was. We've got a couple of views from previous flights where you'll see the booster kind of go in different directions, and it was really small differences in the thrust of those ship engines. As they started up, they would nudge the booster in an initial direction, and so the booster would essentially sense that and then lean into it, and it'll react, the engines will gimbal, and then it'll continue the flip. That was the easiest option technically, but you do take some performance hits since you're essentially setting aside propellant to accommodate every single direction for a flip.
Exactly, but if we know which direction we're flipping, then we know how much propellant we will need and can instead use more of the propellant to burn longer during ascent, adding more velocity to ship and increasing how much payload it can ultimately deliver to space.
Yeah, so today I got my trusty Super Heavy here. We're going to intentionally try to flip straight up. So as you're separating from the ship, we want to get to here as you're doing that boost back burn. The fastest way is to just flip straight up and go into it. That's roughly what we did on Flight 5. It's the most direct way to get into that orientation for the boost back burn. What you don't want to do is when you flip all the way down like that, we did that on Flight 7, it takes you in a big loop, uses the most amount of prop, not efficient. We're at the point where we want to start kind of tuning it in and getting some extra performance out of the booster.
Yeah, exactly. That's called optimization.
That's right.
To accomplish this, we made some changes to the hot stage adapter, welding reinforced panels over the vents in the direction that we want the booster to go. So when the ship engines ignite, the thrust will push against the blocked vents, which means that the nudge will be in the direction that we planned for. And then when we go to the next generation of ship and booster, we plan to control the flip direction by fine-tuning the engine startup sequence on the ship.
Yeah, that's not the only flight experiment that we have planned for the booster today. We're not attempting a catch, so we're going to try and gather additional data that's going to improve performance on future boosters. We're also going to try and see how resilient we are to things like losing an engine during the landing burn. By sending the booster out to sea, we're able to do these higher risk tests without risking the launch pad. As you might have heard earlier, we're going to be doing what's called a higher angle of attack. Basically, instead of coming straight down, we're going to tilt up a little bit. That gets you more drag on the booster. You're able to use just aerodynamic forces to slow you down. The slower you're going at the start of that landing burn, the less propellant you need, because really you're just focused on slowing down as much as humanly possible when you fire that up. So by already going a little bit slower, we'll get some benefits to our performance and our reliability on those burns.
Yeah, exactly. And there's definite uncertainty in how well the booster's grid fins and structure will be able to control its flight when we get into higher angles. So don't be surprised if it isn't a smooth descent for the booster down to its splashdown point today. The most important objective of this portion of the test will be getting
is
actual
that they
flight
probably
data to help
won't,
anchor our
but
models.
who knows?
Now,
It
we're
might
hoping to fly the
actually
next generation of
stay
super heavy
attached this
boosters
time
at
because
even
they're going to
higher
need that
angles of
attached
attack.
in order to do
So this
this
test
flip that
today
they're
will give
talking
us a
about.
better idea of what is feasible. Now, on top of all of this, we're going to see how resilient Super Heavy is to engine failures at the most critical times.
Yeah, we're going to intentionally disable one of those 3 center engines and instead use an engine from the middle ring that's kind of right behind it. Those center engines are what we nominally use at the very last part of a landing
Just to
burn.
let you know,
just
they
kind of
will be
fine-tuning
jettisoning
the booster's
the hot
path
stage
into
ring.
those waiting chopstick arms. This is going to act as a real-world simulation of a pretty scary situation where engines are not starting at probably the worst possible time, but we're going to do this without risking the pad. And then, at the very end of the landing burn, we're going to cut one more engine off and go down to only those 2 center engines. The burn is going to end while Super Heavy is still several hundred feet above the Gulf, so we expect it to make a pretty hard splashdown today. So, in all, pretty eventful day for the booster.
And as many of you may know, water landings are actually uncommon for SpaceX. While other launch providers expend all of their boosters after flight, we land and reuse most of ours. All of these tests are going to help us improve future generations of Super Heavy until we reach its fundamental design, a fully and rapidly reusable and reliable rocket. All right, let's check back in with Chris in Hawthorne. How's it going, Chris?
Hey, Jesse, my colleagues here in Hawthorne definitely agree with you. We can't wait to see the Super Heavy perform its second flight and see all of the work from our thousands of engineers and technicians in action today. Now, while this reuse milestone is incredibly important for Starship's development, Super Heavy boosters are not the only vehicles that we reuse here at SpaceX. We're big on reuse, and our Dragon fleet is another example of that reuse. And we actually control those Dragon missions from right here in Hawthorne in the mission control room that we talked about a little bit earlier. For Dragon and our human spaceflight program, this month also marks a big milestone for SpaceX, our 5-year anniversary of human spaceflight. Now, NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley got us started back on Demo 2, which was notable for being the first time since the retirement of the shuttle program in 2011 that people launched to orbit from U.S. soil. Now, in those 5 years, we have launched 17 human spaceflight missions, 11 for NASA, and 6 commercial missions, including Polaris Dawn, with our first commercial spacewalk in history, and From-2 earlier this year, which became the first human spaceflight mission ever to explore Earth's polar regions. We've flown a total of 66 crew in those 5 years, and we are expecting that number to grow significantly in the coming years. Now, most recently on our From-2 mission, the crew offered unique glimpses into the orbital spaceflight experience. And this was honestly just so cool to see. Thank you to our Starlink teams for making everything with the From-2 crew shared possible. This honestly made me feel like I was right there with them in Dragon. They were living, they were working, they were relaxing, they were doing their experiments while also having fun. Basically, just being people and inviting us along for the ride. And that was really meaningful. being invited up there really showed how these are just the early days on the road to making life multiplanetary. And the vehicle that's going to make all of that happen is Starship. And Dan and Jesse, I don't know about you, but that is definitely a future I have wanted since I was a little kid, and I cannot wait to see us make it a reality.
Yeah, right there with you, Chris. It's the fact that we're getting close to that being reality, that the vehicle that's going to go is sitting on the pad right there. Like, that's endlessly exciting. All of that's going to include sending humans, all of the infrastructure for a permanent presence on Mars. And
Chris G,
we're looking
indeed,
ahead
that's for
to
sure.
sending the very first Starship
Also, hi,
to
Space
Mars
Matt.
as early
Good
as
to
next
see you
year.
here.
Yeah,
Super
this will
hyped.
help prove that we can actually get to Mars
Almost,
with
yeah.
focus
Looked
on
like our
learning
old
as much as
studio
possible while
momentarily. I
demonstrating
wonder
what
where
will
they
be
got the
needed
idea
for Mars
from.
transit and landing. But before we make life multiplanetary, we have to build the starships that will make this
Who do we
all
notice
possible.
works for SpaceX?
That's right. And
Yeah, it
that's
could have been a
happening
suggestion
right
from the
here,
person who
Starbase,
helped
Texas,
build and design that
the
studio
gateway
in the
to
first
Mars.
place.
This is where we're soon going to be launching up to 25 Starship launches per
Raj
year.
Luthra,
from here
hello.
at
Glad you made
Starbase.
it.
And the place is changing every single day. We've grown quite a bit just in the last couple of years. There's a couple hundred employees, their families living amongst actual rockets. We're in the process of expanding production and integration. We've got a target of 1,000 Starships a year we're going to try to hit. And recently, we did become a city of our own. We're the first city in Cameron County in 30 years. And that's just going to help us scale more quickly, try to build out the best community possible for all the people that are building the future of humanity's place in space. Starbase, pretty easily one of the most inspiring, exciting, unique places to live and work on the planet. As usual, shameless plug, we're always hiring. Come help us build the gateway to Mars. Visit spacex.com/careers. You can see all of our openings.
And this is my first time in Starbase, and Dan, the Star Factory is a manufacturing engineer's dream. To be able to build a factory like this at such a large scale with such a large scale vehicle is so wild to me. And though I'm just visiting, Chris is hanging out right where I call home base. So let's check back in with Chris in Hawthorne.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, everything here in Hawthorne is looking good. The crowd is gathered, really excited to watch the hard work of all of their colleagues come to fruition here for Starship on its 9th flight test. Not tracking any issues. We are excited to watch Starship do its thing today, make it halfway around the world, and test a lot of those critical in-space maneuvers and operations that will be vital for the program's continued operation. So Dan and Jesse, we can't wait for liftoff. Let's have a good flight today.
Thanks, Chris. Now, if you're just now joining us, where have you been? But we're glad that you're joining us now. We are at T-minus just under 6 minutes until liftoff of the 9th Starship test
that
flight.
sounds about right.
So far, the range is looking good. All the airspace and trajectory area that we are going to be launching through is looking good for our test flight today. Weather has been great. It was a little rainy and windy this morning, but it cleared up. It looks beautiful here in Starbase, and propellant loading continues on both stages.
All right, yeah, it is continuing. We're a little over 90% full on our booster. We are pretty much full in the main tanks on ship, filling up those header tanks. We're going to continue loading prop for about 2 more minutes. Once we're done with that, you've got just under 11 million pounds of liquid propellant spread across those 2 stages. After we get through all of that prop load, our stage 0 will get ready. The ground systems will go through pushbacks, clearing all of those fluid feed lines back to the propellant farm, getting ready for launch. We did just see they did a flap wiggle check, so the final flap check on the ship. We're doing final alignments of the guidance, navigation, and control system, our thrust vector control, essentially our steering.
So crazy.
Check out
Looks
the
like
flight
ground was
safety
on fire
system.
from this
So
angle.
everything progressing right now.
Super cold.
If we do need to hold, that can come at T-minus 40 seconds. That's a point built into the countdown where we can
only 4
pause
minutes
to wait
away.
for any final checkouts, pressurizations, anything that we need to complete. We can hold there. We will only hold there if we're tracking an issue. We're not currently tracking anything that will hold us at T-minus 40 seconds. But if you've seen a Starship launch before, they can happen. We can push through them and then launch that day still.
Exactly. But when we do pass through T-minus 40 seconds, a number of events will occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems come up to flight pressure, ship goes to internal power, and then after that, the quick disconnect or QD, arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction just shortly after T-minus 0. And once we pass T-minus 40 seconds, we do still have the ability to recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds, and then hold there to assess what happened and see if we can proceed again back down to T0.
Yeah, there are a couple of things, kind of gates in that timeline that if we pass through that and we hit a hold, we'd have to scrub for the day. One pretty visual one will be if the water starts flowing for that deflector system that's underneath the launch mount. That happens right at around T-minus 10 seconds. For flowing water, we can't turn it off after it starts, and if we hit a hold, we're scrubbed for the day. We would need to refill those water tanks. We would also, at that point, need to refill all of the propellant tanks. As
Happy thoughts,
11
everyone.
million
Happy
pounds
thoughts.
of propellant is a whole lot. We can typically do that in about 24 hours, so we can always turn around to try again tomorrow. But we are coming up on 3 minutes away from liftoff. We should be hearing that we're closed out of prop load on the ship at this point. Booster coming up shortly.
Wow, the weather just looks amazing there with Starship on the launch pad. Just about 2 minutes and 45 seconds from T0 with a lot of objectives for today. The booster, the Super Heavy booster flying today, will be flying for its second time. Last flight was on Flight 7 and just turned around in 2 flights, which is pretty incredible. I'm super excited to see that booster fly again.
All right, we did just hear we are going to hold at T-minus 40 seconds.
I love that shot.
So we'll pass along some more information once we hear that reason. But again, that's not the end of the day. We can hold at T-minus 40 seconds for quite a few minutes. We eventually have to start looking at our temperature of all of our propellant on board. That's usually what drives us to, if we've held too long, we have to stand down for the day. So we are expecting a hold at T-minus 40 seconds.
I've just spotted something.
Sounds like we're going to be doing some additional checkouts on the booster Raptor while we're at that T-minus 40 second mark. So
I said I could see the new roundabout in the background.
Oh, yeah.
At T-minus 40. And then again, we've got a couple of minutes. They can work through the issues. If we're able to clear them, we can still launch today. If it's something that we can't, we can always stand down, turn around, recycle, fly again tomorrow.
There is a hold at 40 seconds.
Yeah, again, that's really important. This is what terminal count is exactly for, is to be checking the vehicle, monitoring the vehicle systems as it makes its way down to T0. And again, this gives us the ability to catch anything and be able to hold, as Dan has been saying, and recycle if we need to, or pause so that we can work through those issues and see if it's something that we need to stand down for. And as Dan mentioned, we will be holding at T-minus 40 seconds, so in about 20 seconds from now.
Yeah, so we'll hold there, and they'll work through these final checkouts on, sounds like just one of those Raptors on the first stage on Super Heavy, which, as you said, we're reflying it for the first time. 29 of those 33 engines have already been used in a launch, one of which has already launched
twice, and will go for
and
its
is getting ready for its third
time.
Right. And you just heard our flight director for the day, Joe Sliker. He just shared that we are going to hold at this T-minus 40 second mark. Keep an eye on one of those Raptor engines on booster.
So yeah, just like they're saying, hopefully something that can be taken care of quite easily.
Hopefully it's just a thermal thing and it just needs to cool down a little bit more. So.
Yeah, hopefully. Air Icarus has a question regarding fuel flow. Does the main tank fill header?
If you're just now jumping in, we are holding still at T-minus 40 seconds. Watching one engine, waiting for temperatures to kind of get to a zone that we want them to on one of the engines on the booster, on the Super Heavy booster,
only goes to the
getting ready
ship, not the booster.
For its second ever flight.
Automatically feed into the engines directly because they need it for landing.
Hang on, let me turn that down. I can't hear you at all.
Continue to hold again.
Talking over that. Say that again, John.
I'm pretty sure the header. Yeah, it's all right. I'm pretty sure the header tanks go directly into the engines because they need it for landing, so it needs to be a direct feed. So yeah, I would say so.
But again, this is exactly what it's for. This gives us the best chances at success.
And the clock is rolling.
Sorry, I'm just
Here
trying
we
to
go.
stay
All
tuned.
right.
Okay, we're going.
T
We're
minus
going.
30.
They figured it out.
Let's listen
Engine
in.
must be in range.
Watch
Let's do
that
it.
first flight proven super heavy.
Flight directors go
Get
through.
ready to
10
take
seconds
off
from
from Starbase.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
Good
Let's
luck,
do this.
Starship. Good luck, SpaceX.
All right. Ad Astra.
T-minus. Down to 1. Hit hold.
Oh, we're in a hold, and it sounds like I believe that with
We
the
did have
water
a
deluge,
hold.
that's it.
And looks like the clock jumped back to T minus 40 seconds.
Or did the
All right,
deluge
so
start? I
yep,
didn't get
we
to
jumped
see.
out.
I couldn't see.
I did not see the deflector go off.
Okay.
Okay.
So hopefully we were right at around that T minus 10 second mark.
And if we were before that T minus 10 second mark, we do have the ability to recycle, as we mentioned earlier, back to T minus 40 seconds.
Let's see.
It looked like this time it was a ground side issue. We're taking a look at this real quick. So again, we're back at T minus 40. We're gonna hold for a little bit.
Okay. It's okay. It still might happen today.
We are still not scrubbed for the day. Give them a couple of minutes to work through this. Again, we can hang out at T minus 40 for several minutes. Eventually, we start looking at your bulk temperatures and all of your propellant on board the vehicle. We're not actively replenishing the propellant on board Super Heavy and Starship. And so you don't have essentially forever to hang out before things start to warm up. And you do want to make sure your temperature's in a really stable range for a healthy startup on Raptor engines. So they're going to work through this
Yeah,
issue.
it's
We
gonna
can
be a few
continue to hold here
billion.
for a couple of minutes. What's launch without a little extra added excitement?
All right. We're still thinking good thoughts, still thinking good vibes. I just really hope that
All
if
right,
they
so
can...
cumulatively, we've held for a little over 3 minutes between the two holds. Again, this is a ground side issue on our tower. The techs are looking through the data right now to see if it's something that we can either work through or if it would cause us to have to stand down. So we're continuing to hang out with them, holding at T minus 40.
They only have what, like maybe 5 to 6 more minutes before fuel levels get too low. And
If you're just joining us, we did initially hold at T minus 40 seconds. We continued the count, but recycled before we got to T minus 10 seconds.
Oh,
So we're
JTTV's
back
here.
at a
You can
hold at
launch
T
now.
minus 40 seconds.
That's what we were waiting for.
Welcome.
Waiting for more information. The team is checking out to see if we can
found the ground
continue
issue.
today.
Ay, please. Let's do this. While they're listening into their flight directors. Hopefully, it'd be nice
We're
someday
continuing
if
to
we do
hold
get
here at
that.
T minus 40 seconds. We've been holding for just about 5 minutes now. As the teams evaluate if we can continue to T0 for Flight 9.
All right, so it sounds like we're coming to a resolution.
Oh, come on.
Hi, Vax.
Vax in the head. Holy cow.
What's up, Vax?
Vax had some time
All
down
right,
this stream.
so we are getting to a resolution. We're going to reset everything.
Oh, they're unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah.
It's usually what you do when something's not working, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, it has been a hot minute since.
All right, so
you
we're
were
going to see
able
the
to join
clock.
stream.
It is now rolling.
Here we go.
Okay,
we
let's
go.
do it.
Back at it again.
You're just in
Essentially,
time,
we saw
Bex.
an issue with that quick disconnect to the ship. There is a chance that automation will kick us out again if we encounter the same issue. But for now, the clock is rolling. We'll see if we pass around that T-minus 10-second mark.
15.
T plus
Booster and
40
ship,
seconds.
avionic
It's
power,
one
telemetry
hell of a
nominal.
sight from here. We see it arcing right over top of us. We see 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on Super Heavy as it starts to ascend skyward. Coming up on maximum aerodynamic pressure, then only about a minute and a half until we get into hot staging.
Wow, Dan, that was incredible. We could feel the building shaking here, feel the vehicle's power. Now we're just about a minute away from shutting down those engines on the booster. Again, this booster is flying for its second time today.
All right, so hot staging coming up a little under a minute.
You guys are now live again. They can hear you again.
We're going to see all but
This
the
is
three
great.
center
It's
engines
an amazing
turn
flight so
off
far.
on the
Great
booster.
launch.
So our version of MECO, most engines cut off. And then just a few seconds later, hoping to see 6 engines ignite on ship to push it away.
All right, here we go. Coming up.
Oh, man.
I think we need a new one.
All right, hot
instead of turn and
staging,
burn.
about 30
Quick.
seconds.
How about flip and dip?
Flip and dip.
Look at that spin.
Yeah, just
Oh,
getting it in the
there it
right
goes.
orientation, I imagine.
And definitely keep an eye on which way the booster flips. First ever directional flip we're going for today should flip straight
Ooh,
up.
Come on.
Okay, here we go.
They're chilling the engines and flowing fuel through them
Okay.
already.
See those engines
Good
powering
shutdown.
down?
That's what I was
Booster
thinking as
engine
well.
cut off.
Pico.
There we
Ship
go.
ignition.
And it kicks straight up.
Stage separation.
Nice.
That's
Good
gone a
set.
lot faster.
Nice.
Incredible flip by Super Heavy Booster,
Wow.
and you can see those 6 engines, those 3 engines on the ship ignited.
6 healthy Raptors running on ship, on its way to space.
Look at that view.
Peek that engine
Oh,
view.
man,
Booster
that's a
doing
great
boost
shot.
back. Chris, how's it looking over there in
Oh,
Hawthorne,
look
man?
at that view.
It
Oh,
is
that's
looking
so clear.
Chamber pressure is nominal.
It is looking absolutely
Wow.
incredible here in Hawthorne. As we said, 6 healthy engines on ship. We've got 13 out of 13 engines on the booster. Now down to those 3, which is what we expect in the final moments of the boost back burn. Now, as a reminder, we are not recovering the Super Heavy booster today. We are instead going to do some...
Shut down.
Rutro. Rutro. Is that a problem on their end? Rutro. The SpaceX stream crashed? No. The Twitter just crashed? No.
Experiments with it, including a high...
Oh, man. Come back. Come back. Please come back. Hang on, guys. Stand by. Stand by. It was John who crashed. I had a feeling this was going to happen. Okay. Stand by.
Trajectory.
Stand by.
Everything going very.
Okay. Hang tight, everyone. We're working it. I can see that. There we go.
All right. Now, will it allow if I do this?
Right-hand side of your screen, the booster doing its LOX dump, that liquid oxygen dump. So because we don't need some of that liquid oxygen propellant in its tanks.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Also looks like a good hot stage step as well.
Are you guys hearing that okay, or is it just coming through my speakers?
Just absolutely gorgeous views watching these two vehicles do their respective things in the skies over Texas here today. And Dan, we're approaching the 5-minute mark into the flight. Super Heavy is descending rapidly. What can we expect here in the next few minutes as it does its atmospheric tests?
Yeah, now as we had talked about, Super Heavy might not have a
hang
very
on,
smooth
hang on.
ride down. We're going to be putting it through this higher angle of attack. So we're kind of pitching it up a tiny bit, increasing drag. We've done this in wind tunnels. We've done this in computer modeling. It shows that sometimes the control isn't great, but only one way to really prove it out, and that's to get real world data. So here comes Super Heavy. It should be igniting for its landing burn in just about 40 seconds from now.
And we are going to relight 13 engines, then bring that down to 3 engines.
Sorry, hang on.
We will be intentionally
Looking a little toasty.
We will be shutting down one of those 3 center engines intentionally to push the limits of the Super Heavy booster.
Raptor chamber pressure is nominal.
And continuing to see 6 healthy engines on the ship. 3 sea level and 3 vacuum engines still ignited as the Super Heavy booster is making its way back down to Earth.
We can see those grid fins doing some heavy work.
Ooh.
Ignited for our landing burn.
No camera after that.
It may have ended with that landing burn.
Yikes.
Does look like we lost telemetry from the booster once we started into that landing burn. Did you hear confirmation that the booster did demise? So the booster's flight ending before it was able to get through landing burn, but again, we are not bringing that back. We were expecting it to make a hard splashdown in the Gulf. We were getting
Chat, can you hear this okay?
The entire time through that high angle of attack flight, so that was something that was really vital for us to get during this reuse. First reflight of booster in the books.
Okay, hopefully that's better
right,
now.
ship
Sorry about that.
has about 2 minutes left.
Yeah, in about 2 minutes, we expect all 6 Raptor engines to shut down. That will be SECO, basically second engine or second stage engine shut off. And these are some incredible views, Dan, from the aft end of the ship, watching as the engines stay ignited with the Earth in the background.
As always, the Starship avionics team, the techs. I think we just heard the booster. But all right, we got about a minute left into this burn. All eyes definitely on ship as we get through the final stages into its ascent. We're expecting it to start to cut those engines off in about 45 seconds.
Terminal guidance.
All right, just about 30 seconds to go. We're in terminal guidance in the final stages of this ascent burn. We did see shutdown of the Raptor engines. We do stagger these, so we do the Raptors first. Those 3 have shut down successfully. Sea level's still running.
Ship engine cutoff.
Yes, okay. Ooh, don't like that glow in the corner, but this is great. Okay. Are we in the
Ship engine
clear?
cut off, the three most beautiful words in the English language.
And great call out that we had nominal insertion.
Ah, thank goodness.
An incredible flight test so far today.
Maybe a
We
little bit.
reflew a super
they're
heavy
venting
booster for
from
the very
there.
first
That doesn't
time
look-
in 9
that
test
doesn't look
flights.
normal.
Ship is in its orbital trajectory. Again, it's going to remain suborbital for its mission today. But it ignited all, it ignited all 6 of its engines and made it all the way through SECO just now.
Orientation for reentry.
What a moment.
Incredible.
All right, but I mean, that's still lots to come for the rest of this flight.
Yeah.
Per usual, I need to collect myself. Hey, Chris, how's it going over there in Hawthorne, man? How's everybody doing?
I think the elation and the excitement and the happiness at what we just saw achieved carried through across all of our sites. What an incredible view to see Starship back orbiting the Earth just under 11 minutes into our mission. Absolutely exciting to see all of this, and super pumped especially to see all of the team's hard work in action here today. As guaranteed, it has been an exciting evening so far for Starship's 9th test flight. We lifted off a little bit after 6:30 p.m. after a couple of holds that were triggered at the T-minus 40-second mark,
for real,
but we were able to clear those,
crazy.
one on the Raptor, one on the tower, and we were able to lift off successfully from Starbase. 33 out of 33 Raptor engines lit on the Super Heavy. All 6 engines lit on Ship, bringing it to its planned suborbital trajectory around Earth. But as Dan said, we've got a lot still coming up in our flight sequence. So coming up at about T plus 18 minutes, 26 seconds, we'll have the first deployment of simulated Starlink satellites planned from Starship. That will be followed at about T plus 37 minutes and 49 seconds by the relight of a single Raptor sea level engine in space. This is going to help us gather data on our ability to do a deorbit burn for future Starship missions that will go orbital. And then, of course, one of the biggest tests yet to come is the new heat shield modifications to Starship. And that'll start with reentry into Earth's atmosphere at about the T plus 45 minute mark, which should take about 16, 18 minutes to complete. And now today's reentry is going to test that heat shield, like we said,
was whether
specifically how Starship will hold up to 100
how are we going to maneuver
missing
this thing
heat shield
without adding
tiles
a whole
on
bunch of
its
extra
thermal
RCS
protection
thrusters
system.
and
Now,
stuff like
we
that? So maybe
purposely
they're just
took those
testing some
100
stuff out
tiles
if they
off
can
over very
maneuver just by
critical areas
venting.
of the vehicle to be able
We'll
to
try to be
safely
optimistic
test on a
about it.
flight like this suborbital trajectory into the Indian Ocean. What might happen on an operational flight in those areas if we were to lose the primary heat shield tile over Starship. So very critical test
Videos,
coming up.
telemetry too.
And then after that, we'll have the final descent where we will again be pushing Starship to its limits. We definitely pushed the booster to its limits today to gather data, and we're going to be doing the exact same thing on that ship,
Good to see
seeing
you,
how
buddy.
the ship handles various flight conditions that we will need it to fly in as we look to one day soon bring ships back to Starbase for catch and reuse. Now, while there are payload simulators on Starship for deployment today, as we will see in a few minutes, the primary data and the primary payload for today is the data. And today, just like with Starship's previous test flights, that data is coming to us courtesy of our Starlink network. In fact, it is from Starlink that you are seeing these wonderful views of Ship in space right now. So, and I can't wait to see Starlink really provide those epic views and that data transmission during reentry, which is very, very critical to getting that data during reentry. So, Dan and Jesse,
I don't know, Raj.
it's been an exciting day so far. There's more to come as we get ready for Starship's first ever payload deploy. What can we expect next year in the next few minutes?
Mars presentation. We'll find out.
Thanks, Chris. Just going to reiterate, thank you to the Starlink team for these incredible views today.
Is this a new shot?
In a few minutes, Starship will deploy 8 Starlink simulators, similar in size to our next-generation Starlink satellites. The Starlink simulators will be on the same suborbital trajectory as Starship, meaning they will passively re-enter the atmosphere, just like Starship. With tests like these, we can see how Starship's payload deploy systems work in flight while ensuring that the simulator satellites pose no safety risk to people on Earth or for other satellites in orbit.
Beautiful.
Now, this also ensures that any parts of these simulator Starlink satellites that do survive re-entry splash down harmlessly in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And then before we get there, though, we're going to have to open up that payload deploy door. So we've only ever done that one time
yeah, he's
before.
Probably not going to discuss it at all.
Pretty sure it was Flight 3. Someone on the internet, please check me. But that was the only time we ever opened it. And we've had Starlink simulators on the last 2 flights, but we haven't gotten to this moment yet where we're able to open up the payload door and start deploying these. It's going to be pretty cool. We've got them stacked inside of the Starship payload bay. And we'll have potentially a couple of views. You saw one camera pop up.
Wow!
There we go. Look inside of the payload bay
at that.
of Starship.
You can see the simulators.
You can see them stacked down
oh my
in the
gosh!
middle
Are we
going to
see these things actually
There's
pop
kind
out?
Of 4 on
oh
either
my gosh!
side,
Please
so they're sandwiched on top of each other. A stack of 4 right behind each other. And then we're going to pop the door open. It's on the right side of your screen. So we'll see that
Koopa
open
ball,
up.
yeah. As long as that
And then start
rotation isn't
firing
speeding up, I
those
think that they
Starlink
probably are okay.
simulators
It seems to have kind of
out
stabilized
into
a
space.
bit.
We are expecting the payload door to open in a little
Sorry, my
over
bad.
a
We're
minute
probably
from now.
just sounding like a bunch of
And
people
then
arguing
once
over
that
each other
payload
right
door
now. My
is
bad.
Open about a couple minutes
I was so
later is
focused
when
on
we
getting
will
the audio back that I forgot to turn it down. Oh my gosh,
start
look at that
dispensing
shot.
those
Look
Starlink
at that
simulators.
shot.
View right at the bottom of the stack. So should be
and all
should
the
be able to see
Texas
them
dust
kind of firing
floating
out from
around
right
inside of
so
there.
Really cool. And eventually these are going to carry dozens of the next generation of Starlink satellite into space, and those are going to enable
contamination,
some truly insane things in terms of speeds from space. And what
no, it's fine. It's fine, Jared. We got to contaminate all the planets.
Been really great
Send
for
it all.
Starship,
the amoebas, the mushroom spores, everything. Let's get this process going.
I will destroy all the civilized planets.
Is insane, and for a development program, that's kind of everything. We're in excess of 100,
I'm gonna go back to
130 or 160. My numbers are fuzzy right now, just like my brain is. But well in excess of 100 megabits per second of downlink.
This is
and a
such
lot
a crazy
of that
shot right here.
Eaten up by video. We've got dozens of cameras across Starship. We added several more for this flight. You saw a couple of those as we have essentially 360
It might be
degrees.
Lone Phoenix. It might be a leak and not stuff that was already there. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. No banana this time. Chiquita didn't pay enough.
Now we are expecting the payload door to open any moment now. So we're watching
Hang on,
out
I'm
for
going to
that.
turn it back up because they're saying
Again,
it's
you're
about to
looking at
open
the
any moment now.
inside of Starship as it's suborbital.
Well, we heard the door open was in progress. It was unable to actuate all the way open, so they are going to close it back up. Hal told me no. He said, I'm sorry, Dan. Can't do that. Looks like we won't get the door open today.
I'm sorry,
But that's okay.
Dan.
This is obviously a test we want to be able to do before we're deploying full-on Starlinks. But the real focus for this, now that we are in space, is getting to that reentry. That is the most critical phase of Starship that we still have to prove out.
Dang. Dang.
All right, well, so it does look like we're not going to be able to deploy Starlinks today, but we should have pretty frequent views from Starship. They might cut in and out every once in a while, but should be pretty regular. We are in darkness right now, so might be a lot of black, but the cool part is when we get to reentry, it's going to be daytime.
Yes, and we did that on purpose so that we can get some live daytime views as ship is returning back to Earth.
All right, so we are going to take a break. Enjoy these views as we get them. Enjoy the tunes. We'll be back in a couple of minutes when we get ready to relight one of those Raptor engines on orbit. See you soon.
Hey, Ben.
Okay. Yeah, no deploy then this time. We will see, though. All right. Or sorry, let me turn that off. Get rid of this. Sorry, everyone, if you heard the audio like tripling over itself for a second there. Still, though, it is really nice to get these views of the inside, and I'm turning that back down. Let me control that. There was a comment here that I think is really poignant to this. Yeah, Matt Miller. Not to be negative or too critical, but are these conditions going to be exacerbated when at max payload mass? Payload bay looks quite empty now in terms of gross weight. I know that it's just a test. You know, it's one of those things that we gotta. That's another question that I've never been able to get down to a correct, not correct answer, but like a definitive answer on. And even all the stuff, because I keep wanting to know, okay, that's great that you're doing this payload dispenser for the Starlinks, but what about the actual payload bay door for all these big payloads that so many companies are working on? You know, there's whole business plans right now that are almost entirely dependent on Starship, and no progress on how it's going to look for actual payloads. So if you're talking about these conditions where we were seeing the tumbling and seeing it move around like that, hopefully that's not related to the empty mass at the top, but we will see. We will see. Oh, man. Let's see here. Let me catch up with the chat a little bit. You got to jiggle the handle a little bit. Anyone who's ever had an old beat-up car knows that there's some sort of jiggle the handle trick to get your car to work. The Starlinks aren't done gestating. We're trying to give birth in orbit. Interesting. What a strange failure. I wonder if the door didn't try to open due to RCS issue. Possibly. Who knows? Who knows? Let the speculation begin. Jared, what do you think has happened?
I think, I don't know. I feel like it might be tumble related, because you don't want to be deploying something while you're tumbling, right? Like that puts undue stress. I mean, even the tumble could be putting undue stress on the door, just from the inertia of it. So I don't know. Again, we're in rampant wild speculation here, because we don't even know if it's tumbling.
Maybe
it could actually be.
Maybe there
actually could have been a purpose for that.
Right.
So yeah, I don't
Maybe
know.
there's some sort of conditions where it senses things and like, hey, no, conditions aren't right. We're not going to open now. For the risk that we blow everything up because we think that we're doing like something during reentry or something like that. Who knows? And just like you said, wild speculation territory.
Yeah, and I would imagine too that if they were to try and go ahead and open it, and then attempt to close it, they may not be able to close the payload bay door.
Good point.
And then that's a total loss of vehicle situation. Like, you're gonna lose the whole thing on reentry at some point. So yeah.
Comment from Nicholas Atanasio. A bit confused why they're still not sending Starship to orbit, even though this is the Mark II vehicle. This is the 9th flight, and they're still suborbital. From the best that I understand it, it's because they haven't been able to control what they're worried about is that they won't be able to control Starship in orbit. That's what the whole point of doing a engine relight, and hopefully that would still be coming up. Did I miss that? Did they say that they weren't going to try that? We were so focused on the door that I missed if they said that they were going to attempt.
I haven't heard anything about the relight. So
No.
that's kind of the big thing, is if they can't relight the engines and deorbit the vehicle, then we have one of the largest pieces of space junk ever set up that could be up there for, who knows how long, depending on what type of orbit they would send it all the way up into. So that engine relight test, which will still hopefully be coming up, I think around the plus, I thought it was somewhere around the 34-minute mark. It might have been the 31-minute mark. So we're still a couple of minutes away from that, if they are still attempting to do that today, which I hope they are.
Yeah. And by the way, just to give you an idea of how big Starship is, it's 52 meters long, 9 meters in diameter, and the wingspan on it, so those flaps on it, it's about 17 meters across. So it's huge. Like it's bigger than the space shuttle is. So by a significant margin. So
real quick, 999 range. If you're still here, safe flight, buddy.
Yeah, have a good flight, man. So you can imagine that if that were to get stuck in orbit, oh boy, that would just be an unbelievable, problem. So.
Yeah, absolutely. James McKenzie, Starlink will be the largest customer. May as well get that working first. Absolutely. That's what's going to pay the bills, right? That's what's going to get everything going.
If the financials are to be believed, it is paying the bills already. So
exactly, that's what's paying for all this stuff to happen right now.
So, and that's yeah.
Let's see here. Right? Finally, they can test the upgraded heat shield. Hopefully everything is going well with contact from it. Looks like they're still getting telemetry. Well, maybe not. It does look frozen.
11 minutes out from that Raptor relight.
Cargo door surviving launch, hot staging, and now. Why don't they just insert armchair comment here? Yeah. Oh well. Where's the lock-picking lawyer when you need him? Oh, man. Rick V, time to send the Skylab 2 crew up with some clippers.
Yeah.
Dude, Skylab, one of the solar panels didn't deploy, and the crew that went up, literally with a pair of clippers, were able to unsnip one of the holds that kept the second solar panel from deploying, and got it working.
Yeah, and I can't remember which astronaut it was, but it like flung them back too. So
yeah. That wasn't Garriott, was it? No, that wasn't him. He was on Skylab 3, I thought.
It would have been Pete Conrad and his crew, right? Or no? Hold on.
We need to not know things. Yeah, Pete Conrad, Joseph Kerwin, and Paul Weitz.
Yeah, and then Alan Bean came after on Skylab 3.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. Maybe they should have the Tesla Optimus robot on board to manually open the door. Nah, man, that's extra weight. Although that would be hilarious if the first time they do a test of the crewed version, if they ever get to that point, it's full of a bunch of the Tesla Optimus robots. Is the bay still pressurized, or is the bay in a vacuum? I'm pretty sure that it's in a vacuum, since we saw all that stuff floating around inside during that shot.
I got to say, that looked like, I don't know how close the booster was when it came back to land, but it was definitely close enough that the tracking cameras had it. So
yeah.
just looking at flight radar 24 right now and trying to figure out if anybody's doing any cool stuff at the moment. But it looks like that Gulfstream that NASA was going to fly, their Gulfstream is sort of a one-off thing for that flight. So, a previous flight they were going to have a Gulfstream, and they had a special permission to basically fly it without lights to keep it as dim as possible to get infrared imagery of it. So,
wow. Now this is strange.
That's an interesting shot.
Yeah.
And also, if that Starship down at the bottom is wiggling quite a lot, although don't know if that's just like noise or what.
Well, at least we're finally getting views back, so we know that Starship is okay. Although that doesn't look right. That looks like it's tumbling.
Yeah, that looks like there's
It's
something
dark,
venting
though.
from it. Yeah, I think we're looking at a vehicle tumbling here. And that's a pretty harsh tumbling too.
Yikes. Yikes.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we are about 30 minutes into
turn
today's
this back
flight
up.
test. And the ship is on its suborbital trajectory. As you can see in some of the views and from some of the telemetry, we are in a little bit of a spin. We did spring a leak in some of the fuel tank systems inside of Starship, which a lot of those are used for your attitude control. And so at this point, we've essentially lost our attitude control with Starship. We are still on a path toward reentry. We are suborbital, so no matter what, we are going to enter. However, this lowers the chances for it to be a controlled reentry. So if you think back to Flight 3, when we had something similar happen, just the end symptom of a loss of attitude control, we were in a roll by the time we hit reentry. So we are going to re-enter. We should hopefully still have views. The Starlink satellites are pretty robust to still maintaining contact. We've got 4 of those terminals on the vehicle, and they're pretty robust to maintaining contact, even when we are in a spin, essentially. So we should hopefully continue to keep live views. It's going to still be dark until we get a little bit closer to entry, as we are a little bit, we're coming up on Africa. I believe we do swing just to the south of that continent. And by the time we start heading out over the Indian Ocean, we'll start heading into a sunrise. So, not looking great with a lot of our on-orbit objectives for today, where we were hoping to do the PEZ deploy and relight an engine, and then really importantly, get into that controlled entry to really put the heat shield through the ringer. Nonetheless, Starship marching forward towards that reentry over the Indian Ocean. So we'll continue to hang with it and give you any updates as things continue to change.
Yeah, we'll be about 15 minutes away from the start of atmospheric reentry.
Dang. Dang, dang, dang.
And if you don't have good attitude control, I don't foresee them doing the Raptor relight. So,
I mean, that's what I took. What Dan just said is that they're not going to be able to attempt that today. And I mean, this thing might even have a very destructive re-entry here. And again, even though it looks like it's tumbling pretty bad, then again, we might just be misunderstanding this shot, because it kind of almost looks like a form of infrared shot right here.
Yeah.
And maybe we're just misunderstanding what we're actually seeing here. Or they vented so much that we're seeing like a weird effect of not plasma, but gas that's surrounding the vehicle here. It's kind of hard to make out what's going on. But
yeah, this is highly unusual. And I guess not many of us have an answer to what exactly we're looking at, simply because we've never had that opportunity to look at something like this before. So
yeah,
it might regain some control, but it's also got to be like well set and in proper attitude for that. Anyhow, there's only so much those aero surfaces on Starship can do. Just as with shuttle, there was only so much that the elevons were capable of doing. So
yeah, absolutely. Ay.
Yeah, and I mean, if this is still venting right now, man, there's a lot of stuff in it. So, but also, we gotta wait a little bit. So,
I mean, I hope they're not looping footage, because this has looked the same for quite some time.
I don't think they are, but yeah. It's definitely not much you can do at the moment other than just. The
amount of brightness and reflection that we're getting on the booster, though, or excuse me, on the Starship, the metallic parts that we can see. But again, this is a weird. I'm not exactly sure what type of camera this is. I don't think that this is a true color, because the other ones were super dark. But
yeah.
One good thing, though, one positive thing, is that they were able to get past the failure modes on the last 2 flights. So even though they didn't get to accomplish the tests that they were hoping for, this is still progress. And hopefully, like we were speculating and mentioning, that maybe when Reentry starts, it will kind of orient itself, hopefully, and not be exposed on the wrong sides. But even if it is,
I'm really.
Go ahead, Jared.
I was gonna say, I'm really interested in finding out what exactly was the issue, because it seemed like the vent issue, the loss of attitude control with that yawing at the start was almost immediate at SECO 1. So
flap is moving.
36 minutes.
Here, let me turn this back up. They're talking again.
Today's flight tests. You're seeing some flap movement here on the ship. If you've been following along, we have essentially lost attitude control on the ship at this point. It is suborbital, so it's still headed to the exact same trajectory as before. We were not able to get that payload door open and deploy those nose cones. We've been dealing with some leaks on the ship. This is also what led to that loss of attitude control. So at this point, we are kind of in a spin, and we are also going to be skipping that Raptor relight. If you've followed through the history of Starship, something similar happened, different cause, but same symptom, back on Flight 3, where we weren't able to maintain attitude control in orbit. And so we're going to skip the relight of that Raptor engine while we're in space. We are going to still proceed with entry, but as we are not able to control the attitude of the ship, as we get into entry, it will enter in whatever orientation it is in at the time, which does not bode well for the ship's heat shield, as we're not going to be essentially aligned the way that we want to do for reentry. So it is definitely coming down. It is definitely heading to the Indian Ocean. But our chances of making it all the way down are pretty slim. So we'll still get as much data as we can. We're still getting live telemetry, live views from Starlink the entire time. And we'll continue to stick with ship as it continues on. We are about 10 minutes away or so until we start getting into entry. And the light will start to pick up as we cross the Indian Ocean, and we'll start to see a little bit more daylight, and we'll, as always, as long as we maintain that comm link, get some plasma on the way in and start to bring the Starship back through the Earth's atmosphere. So that coming up in about 10 minutes or so. So we'll check back in with everybody in a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and as JTTV was saying, in the chat, as somebody earlier was saying, why don't they just put it on orbit? This is why you don't put it on orbit until you get the confidence in it. So
in case stuff like this happens. Imagine this was all the way into orbit and spinning like crazy like this, and we have to deal with this giant spinning Starship for months.
yeah,
Depending on what altitude it went to, it could knock out a whole bunch of stuff.
yeah, it would be very, very bad. And it would.
I agree, Raj.
Oh, yeah.
Luthra. Any data from this is better than no data. They will learn and improve. I think so too. I believe so too. Yeah, spinning in its own cloud of vapors. Like, it almost looks like when like in Star Wars when they're doing their hyperdrive, or it looks like it's going through some sort of wormhole or something. Who knows? Maybe SpaceX knows something that we don't, and they are doing something even crazier than any of us know about. Yeah, this is just too wild. What? I don't understand.
I'm also seeing stuff coming off down in the bottom right corner, like just material.
Yeah, just
I
little
can't
bits
tell
of
what that is.
FOB, foreign object debris. FOD.
Something like it could be probably ice.
Probably.
So,
yeah, probably just ice. Yeah, at least it didn't spread debris all over populated areas this time. 100%. So still progress. Still progress. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, this thing is really moving now.
I don't think that's spinning that fast. That would be unbelievable if it was. I could see it venting that bad. But
And it's just causing like maybe it's causing like an optical illusion or something like that, and that's why it's looking that way.
yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what forces that this can take.
Yeah,
It's quite a Starlink commercial. It works even on an orbital spin.
We're definitely in like full Gemini 8 mode here right now. So
that's
we
that's
need
what it
our-
looks like. Yeah, full going crazy. If anyone was on board, they'd be smacked up against the bulkhead right now.
Yeah.
And if it's not that, then yeah, like we were saying, maybe it is some weird optical illusion from the way that it's venting. And maybe there's just that this camera angle, because this is a camera that is inside one of the flaps on the top. Maybe just the way that it's venting is going right in front of the camera, and like because right now oh man, okay, that actually looks like reentry plasma now. Okay, this is getting crazy. So it looked like everything that we were seeing over the past couple of minutes was actually behind Starship, but maybe it was in front of this little camera that's on that flap looking down the whole time, and that's why it was so confusing. Wow.
Yeah, we're at what 105, just over 100 kilometers.
Wow.
At this point, so wow, it's getting toasty.
This is like music video footage now.
Whoa.
Remember the little flap that burned through but still held on?
Yeah. Whoa, what a view.
That is the energy that I am hoping for this time. Oh, don't give out on us now.
Right, so we
Don't give out on us now, Starlink. Ah!
Today's flight test, you're seeing the light show start as Starship is getting closer to its reentry. If you're just tuning in, we were able to successfully make it to orbit, run into a couple of issues as we've coasted to our entry point over the Indian Ocean. At this point, we had lost attitude control of the ship and entered into a spin. The team made the call to do what's called passivate the vehicle, so we're essentially venting all of the remaining propellant overboard, and it's going to make an uncontrolled reentry. Important to note, this is a contingency that is planned for, and we clear the zones in the Indian Ocean where these entries could take place. So we're not going to come down exactly where we would have had nothing happened, but we do clear a tremendous amount of space out in the Indian Ocean in the event that we run into this. We understand that there are always risks, essentially, with these flight tests, with the hardware, but we don't really accept any compromise when it comes to protecting people.
And it is one thing to note is we will actually still re-enter in our planned airspace zone, which is good. That is exactly what we planned for. You know, we do plan for if something does go a little bit off nominal, that we have enough airspace cleared out for situations just like this.
Yeah, reentry is still just that really critical phase that we need to try and gather as much data, as much information as possible. Is a fully reusable heat shield has never been flown before, the history of space flight, and that's something that Starship still has to crack. And so we had a whole range of experiments on this one at this point, and we just started to lose some of our cameras, so it's very possible that we'll start to lose contact with Starship a lot sooner than we would have if it was a nominal reentry. So we are expecting it to break up essentially on its reentry over the Indian Ocean. So not able to do a lot of our on-orbit objectives today, but just the fact that we, got it into space was just a really big moment for a lot of the team.
Yeah, and another thing to note is that Super Heavy did fly for its second flight today. It first flew on Flight 7, and it made it all the way to our shutdown of all the engines and stage separation, getting ship into its suborbital trajectory today. It did ignite its 13 engines, but it did demise at that point. We did plan to fly it back down to Earth at a higher angle of attack, and we do expect it to stress the vehicle a lot more than what we've seen previously. So it's not unexpected that we did lose the booster before we got to the actual landing.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue to hang out and see if we get any updates on ship. It does look like we might be getting some video back soon.
Oh, whoa.
There we go.
Whoa.
So this is a view essentially on the top part of Starship. You're looking up at the payload bay and towards the nose cone. So views are going to be a little bit scarce potentially, as again, we are in essentially a tumble. We had lost that attitude control. So Starlink, when it's able to connect, able to feed this down. We are at the phase where we would expect entry to start within the next minute or so. So we are entering uncontrolled, but again, we're entering into an airspace and a sea space that is cleared and monitored in advance of launch and before we get to this phase.
And with the views that we are able to see, you are seeing a lot of that plasma build up. During reentry, we do expect the vehicle to see about 1,400 degrees Celsius in there. You can see the flap feeling that temperature there, a little bit melting away. But as we expected with the spinning of the vehicle, we are no longer controlling the attitude of the vehicle. So this is now, at this point in the test flight, it is expected to see it begin to demise a little bit on its way back down to Earth.
Yeah. And so we'll stick with it for as long as we're kind of getting any reach back from the ship as it starts to make this reentry. But yeah, so it's re-entering actively right now. And again, we did do what's called passivation. So you essentially vent all of your excess propellant overboard before you hit the atmosphere. That's a safety measure we can take on the ship while you still have contact with it. So that was done. It's now coming down in the predetermined hazard area that was cleared ahead of flight. Not controlled, so we're not going to get all of that reentry data that we're still really looking forward to.
He's the only one having a good day.
This is kind of a new generation of ship. It has different flaps, improved heat shield, a whole lot of things that we're really trying to really put through the ringer, as there's a whole lot we still need to learn before we get to kind of the next step that we're hoping for, which is going to be that ship going orbital and eventually coming back here for a catch. So getting through one of these fully is going to be really important. It's not going to be today, but we are just going to stick with the ship, see what else we can learn as it makes its way through the atmosphere and brings an end to the 9th flight test. So we'll stick with it.
I hope we're able to get any views back, unless it's already broken up and lost connections. We saw that flap kind of melting a bit, and it makes me wonder if it's already hit the Starlink connection. Yep. That's all right, though. Got further than last time. And yeah, good thing that they decided to do the splashdown of the booster in the Gulf of Starbase, which is what I'm going to call it from now on. Because otherwise, that could have been a very, very, very expensive accident on the launch pad. Yeah. They lost the booster.
If you're just now joining
let's
us, we
tune in.
did have an on-time liftoff from Starbase, Texas at 6:30 p.m. Central Time of the Flight 9 vehicle. We did have some incredibly stressing objectives today. The Super Heavy booster flew for its second flight. It first flew on Flight 9 and made its way to take ship all the way up to stage separation, doing its second flight ever, which is pretty incredible. We did lose the booster on the way back down, as we did fly it back down at a higher angle of attack. So as expected, we did have it demise on the way back down.
Yeah, we were able to get all the way to that landing burn, though. So we made it through that higher angle of attack. So a lot of great data that's going to help us improve those future booster flights.
Yeah, we did do the directional flip, and it worked.
Yep.
It was actually
Flipped
a great
right
view
direction.
that we saw. And then ship continued, 6 healthy Raptor engines in the beginning of its flight, making it all the way to SECO and coasting for quite a while. We made it to the expected time that we would open up the payload door. Unfortunately, the door did not open as we expected it to, so we did not deploy the 8 Starlink satellites.
Yeah, we ran into a couple of issues once ship got there, but I can tell you it was a pretty crazy moment for a lot of the people that were standing here for ship to make it there. It's been a couple of flights, but it was really exciting to see. Ran into some issues on orbit. We weren't able to deploy the Starlinks. We eventually lost attitude control, dealing with some propellant links inside of the ship. And we did lose attitude control. And just to confirm, we did lose contact with the ship officially a couple of minutes ago. So that brings an end to the 9th flight test. So still a lot of work to do, but really big moment. Chris, how's everybody doing over there in Hawthorne? What's the vibes, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's a test program, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn, and that was definitely the vibe and the atmosphere here at Hawthorne. Would have been great to see ship get all the way through its objectives today, but with all of that data that came down through the Starlink system, we're definitely going to learn it, and we're definitely going to fix that and push forward. Also, great to see the responsible engineers here in Mission Control talking with the flight control teams in Starbase. We talked about how it's great having that expert knowledge on console to be able to go to at a moment's notice, and that really helped us make the right decisions in orbit today when we decided to passivate the vehicle. So we will be here looking forward to Flight 10 and some success on future flights.
All right, well, obviously congratulations to everybody that poured so much time, effort into getting this rocket off the pad. The last 2 months have been an absolute gauntlet for a lot of people, and we're continuing to learn more about this ship, about this rocket. We are trying to do something that is impossibly hard, and it's not always you're not going to reach it in a straight line. We said there's going to be bumps, there's going to be turns, but seeing that ship in space today was a hell of a moment for us. So congratulations to every single person who put time, effort, sweat, anything into that rocket.
Yeah, this is exactly the SpaceX way. We're going to learn, iterate, and iterate over and over again until we figure it out. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the fine people of Cameron County, including the residents of the newest city of Starbase, as well as the Coast Guard, Federal Aviation Administration, Government of Mexico, as well as the Australian Space Agency.
All right, now, this is not the end. We're going to have a whole bunch of cool liftoff stuff, so be sure to follow us on X at SpaceX for more, and we will see you back here for Flight 10. Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, hey, Mike, you're muted, so.
Oh, sorry about that. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, we've had all these different delays and problems with this program, and hopefully everything will get back on track and they'll be able to continue. I would much rather see something like this. I mean, we had a reason to come together today and to watch this test. I would much rather see a test that fails and actually have a reason to have this instead of, like in the case of Blue Origin, like, oh, hey, I wonder what Blue Origin's up to. Is there any updates? Nope. Guess I'll wait another year. And maybe I'm being a little too harsh on Blue there, but I would much rather see something like this and have a test that fails instead of nothing at all and no activity at all. And Jared, I know that you kind of are more from a lot of the science background and the goals. I'm that Star Trek nerd who wants us to have warp drive super badly, and until we have that, this is the next best thing. And very much more of a hardware guy of getting us to do some really cool stuff. So yeah, still grateful that we got to see anything at all today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and very rarely do you have a test program where you can literally look at a camera on YouTube 24/7, 365 and just
Right?
watch whatever
Right?
nut and bolt you want getting installed.
Debate about what kind of crane is installing something.
Yeah, well, no, you don't end up debating. They end up zooming in and you see which crane it is and you find out the contractor who they got it from, and then you can go get a photo in front of the contractor's building with the crane when it returns.
Right.
That was the crane that got us to Mars or something like that. I don't know. That sounds like extra nerdy. Yeah,
this is even worse. This is even worse when a project gets cut at the 95% mark, like Venture Star. Oh,
yeah. Oh, Venture Star. Thanks for reminding me about the linear arrow spikes.
So yeah, much rather actually see tests like this than nothing at all.
Yeah, and as we mentioned in our show on Sunday, we do shows on Sundays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and what is that now? 1700 UTC. In flight testing, it is very rare for things to go right, especially with the things that use as much energy as rockets and other stuff. These are fickle beasts that require the best conditions that you can with the smallest tolerance as possible. And the line for error, there isn't one, because you either get it right or you don't.
Right.
And as you can see, when things aren't right, like today was, it kind of ends up, costing a flight. So yeah.
And I kind of agree with JTTV on this, that he thinks that they're changing too much too fast, so that they're not super dialed in on each launch, even if it's older gen stuff. And
Yes.
I think I agree with that.
Yeah, and I know that we both understand the concept of move fast and break stuff, but there ends up becoming a point where you have to look and you have to say, okay, we've broken stuff for 3 times in a row. What are we doing at this point? So at least if I were management, I would be wondering where are we getting this wrong? And I feel like a lot of it is that sort of like rush to figure out a problem, because you fix one and then you have another, and then you fix one and then today you have another problem. So we're going to have to see ultimately what caused the issue today. It will be rampant speculation until SpaceX says, but so it goes. It's not great.
Although, great point. Impressive cameras to those guys wave around. Yeah. Everyone go to Photon Empress and spam the heck out of her, congratulating for the amazing views today. And I can only imagine how Jamie's feeling right now. Maybe she'll share with us one day.
Yeah, we'll find out someday, far from now.
So. far from now. Let's see. No expert, but I imagine the cost is less the flight than the prep for it. If true, might as well toss it up there, even if it's low probability of success. Yeah, without having access to their books and knowing how much they're doing, then you could be right, because that was the whole reason for going to stainless steel, right? It was the cheapest option. I remember at the very, very, very beginning, they were looking at all these different exotic materials to make the
Yes.
booster and Starship out of, just to decide, we'll just use steel. And yes, it's tempered and reinforced steel and all this kind of stuff, but it's just like, oh, okay, that's fine too. Cool. So it might not be very much to launch one of these things. You could be right that it's a lot more expensive in all the prep work that goes into it than it is the actual launch itself. Still a lot of money though. A lot of money that we don't have.
Yeah. Not for us to know. So
Yeah. The failures
yeah,
are
and
spectacular. I say keep trying. Me too. Keep trying.
yeah. Yeah, you don't get anywhere if you just roll over and say, "All right, well, I guess that's it. If we can't do it after 3 times, then we just shouldn't try to do it at all," you know? That's a pretty stupid attitude to have, if I may say that. So
Oh my gosh. Wait, hang on. Let me get back to the first comment. Matt Miller says they have their mutation rate dialed up too high on their genetic algorithm. And GTA says Grok lied to them. That's who we need to blame for all this is Grok. AI
yeah.
hallucinates and makes stuff up all the time.
Oh man, thanks AI. Thanks for
Sorry, that makes
nothing.
me laugh. That makes me laugh.
So, and yeah, Space Matt C's asking, wonder if Elon will still give his talk. I'm not sure now. I mean, who knows tonight?
Yeah,
So,
who knows?
so, and I also wonder.
We have gotten a couple of tests. 5 minutes ago, SpaceX said first reflight of a super heavy booster. Today's test objectives were designed to intentionally push super heavy to the limits, giving us real world data on its performance that will directly feed to the making of a new next generation booster, even more capable. So, you even more possibility of not quite dialing things in, as is standard for every test. The area in the Gulf containing the booster's flight path was cleared prior to launch. And then 2 minutes later, as if the flight test was not exciting enough, Starship experienced a rapid unscheduled disassembly. Teams will continue to review data and work toward our next flight test. With a test like this, success comes from what we learn, and today's test will help us improve Starship's reliability as SpaceX seeks to make life multiplanetary. So yeah, we will see. I mean, it would have started at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and right now it's 5:37 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So um, the fact that they deleted all the stuff for it makes me think it's probably not going to happen now.
Yeah.
But we will see. We will see. Something I was also hoping for, I was hoping that we would be able to turn this into a double header. And even though it's much smaller, Rocket Lab was supposed to launch today, another one of their Electron launches. But unfortunately, at their launch site in New Zealand, they're having a little bit of bad weather. So they are rescheduling that for May 29th. So we will see that, or rather see what happens with that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that about sums up today, doesn't it?
I think so. And without getting any more official updates, all we can do is just speculate.
Yeah.
Little humble pie does the body good, y'all. Well, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us for this. We're still, trying to be as positive as we can, and still big believers in the future of spaceflight. Hopefully, we get some official updates soon. And if we do get any sort of official update from Elon, if he's doing this talk later on today or later this week or whenever, hopefully we can get some cool information from that, and maybe some updates on the lunar version of Starship. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that need to be figured out before we'll ever find out. And probably going to be years and years and years before we truly find out what all the problems were going on behind the scenes. So again, thank you very much for being here and for joining me and Jared and John for this webcast of SpaceX's ninth flight of Starship. Expect a video from me this Thursday about some interesting stuff. I've been working on a video for a little while now about should we do with the Gateway space station. We've already been building parts to the lunar gateway station that may or may not be at risk of being canceled right now, and our international partners involved are already looking at other alternatives of what to do with it. So I want to talk about some of the proposals that have already come out and a few of my own ideas as well to incorporate a couple of other space-worthy pieces of space station hardware that we could probably use right away. So expect a space pod video from that this Thursday, and then we will be every Sunday. We will ever faithfully be doing our live show to talk about stuff from the week, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more information about this flight by then. And if not, then there's always stuff going on in the space industry that we're fascinated about, and planetary science as well. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you guys next time, and don't forget, keep moving onwards and upwards, everybody. Ad Astra, to the stars.